everyone. I like when the Fremont Unified School Board candidates show up early. It's nice.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome.
Doing meetings this way, Kelsey.
Hmm?
It's because we're so used to doing meetings this way.
Yeah. I'm feeling, I know my poor roommate, she never knows when she walks into the house if I'm on like a work call or like what the level of being casual is. And she's been quite the comedy routine for some of my Zoom calls. She likes to, walk in a little bit sloshed, a little bit, she always has a different guy with her. She's one of those, we're kind of like the odd couple because I'm like very serious and I'm always working, and she's like, always, flying around doing her own thing. And so she always walks in and I'm on these calls and she's got like a different guy with her, and she comes in like, hey girl, going on, and I'm like, so it's been a good time on Zoom, I think, for a lot of us who might have, not like traditional lifestyles. And I've had some good ones too with people that are on calls with me, their parents or their spouses, their kids. Kids are amazing on Zoom. I want to have like a blooper reel of kids on Zoom.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Greg. So glad
Hello.
you could join us. Thank you so
Kelsey.
much.
Thank you.
I'm just slowly letting everybody in as they begin to filter. We normally
And I'll stay on mute till you're ready. That's fine.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, we can chit chat. I love to chit chat. So
Okay.
If anybody has something to say, feel free.
Okay. Hi, Michelle.
I'm muted. Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Greg.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Hey, good to see you. Desiree, hey.
Yeah, a lot of you are first timers to our little club here. So I'm very thankful to have you and excited that you could join us. We recently just celebrated our 4th anniversary, so we're feeling really excited. It is also very warm outside for those of you who do not know.
Yeah.
No air
Now
conditioning.
the fires are coming by.
No, the apartments I live in were built in 1987, which is the same year that global warming was first presented to Congress. So nobody here in Fremont thought we would need air conditioners. I mean, even as a kid, I remember it never got over 80. Like maybe 3 days of summer, it got over 80 degrees. And now it's like when summer comes, I'm praying that it won't get over 90.
Mm-hmm.
The 80s seem
Yeah.
like,
There isn't climate change. Oh, no.
Oh, no. None of that.
No.
Just sweat it out, you guys. We'll be fine.
Hi, Joneses.
Hi, Diane. Hi, Rob.
Hi,
Kelsey,
Diane.
up here in Fremont?
So Newark, technically, I went to Memorial and Newark Junior High and Milani, which is now Birch Grove Intermediate. But I live in Centerville at Central and 880. So I'm like as close to Newark as I can get. I call it my nexus of power. I'm like living right on my nexus.
I bet you graduated way after I did. I graduated Newark Memorial class of 91. So
Yeah, I was 05. So
yeah, see, you win.
It's interesting though, my family, my aunts and uncle, my dad was the last graduating class of Newark High. And then my 2 aunts and my uncle were the first student body at Memorial when it was built. So I feel good about my Newark roots, but definitely I think politically there's always a lot more going on in Fremont. And also Fremont had affordable housing when I needed it. So that's, another thing that our whole area has to work on. I'm just going to be doing this through the whole meeting, so I apologize to all of you.
No AC, fire's burning outside. You're fine.
Right, exactly, Lance. I'm in the same boat.
Hey,
And
Lance.
I'm right along Mission,
Hey, Tawny.
here in Union City, and it's just like a funnel. Like anytime there's a fire, it's just like,
Yeah.
we cannot see the hills.
I couldn't see the sun today, and I wasn't sure if it was clouds or smoke. And, you know, because it's all just kind of white and hazy and covering everything. But I'm going to go with, you know, that it's probably smoke. And also, I've been very sad to hear so many of my friends and stuff talking about they're getting headaches from the smoke now. And just like bad air quality and
Yeah, particularly air matter. Really fun. And then people are like, yeah, we could go outside and breathe it. I'm like, no. But also Tylenol or aspirin will not help you either.
The $55 air purifying fan I got off Amazon is like my best investment in life right now. We also got the 3-pack of filters, refill filters to go with it. I'm like, there's best investment. Best investment right now. Anyways, we'll just give it a few more minutes so I can let everybody get into the meeting. But I appreciate all of you who come on time. I'm not going to have any fancy introductions really or anything because I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk. And one last thing, if you're a candidate with time restrictions, please let me know. A few people reached out and asked about the format. We're normally pretty, you know, we kind of see what happens when we get here. And so typically we'll end up asking like a broad question and allowing every candidate to answer it with their own, you know, how it relates to their city, to their position. And sometimes we'll do some specific questions. But if I have candidates here that have time restrictions, if you want to let me know, I will try to like get you up front with all the time and answers that I can. And then, you know, allow you to leave. I try to be very courteous of everyone's schedules, you know, activism is hard.
So Kelsey, can I make a quick announcement?
Yes.
So as most of you know, there is an evacuation warning in effect for the a big part of Fremont, basically everything to the east of 680. I was recently told that there is a strong likelihood that that will end up being an evacuation order, which means that the police are going to be going through and asking people to leave. And the city is, you know, has a number of resources and places that people to go. That decision will be made about 6:30 tonight. So anyway, that's
if you need to
I have family there.
home.
this is some serious crap we're going through here.
Yeah.
I might need to text my aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His dogs are at my house right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Vinny, for that. I'm going to need to probably be cognizant of that. So thank you.
Yep.
Yes,
Me as
absolutely.
well.
We want everybody to evacuate when it is time. 100%. I'm actually going to be a little bit grieving here with my last couple minutes before we get started. During the Mendocino complex fires, I was like, you guys, what if Sunol caught on fire? Like, how would Fremont, how would our area evacuate? All of our roads would get congested. We'd just be like sitting in our cars on the freeway waiting to die. And people literally told me, like, you're crazy. We would never have a wildfire like that. And now here I am. What has it been, like 2 years, a year and a half since the Mendocino complex fires? And I'm like, oh, tell me again how our hills and our open spaces weren't at risk of wildfire. Just tell me one more time. I didn't hear it. So I sincerely hope that if you have to evacuate, you know, we will all get out very, very safely.
Yeah, the only good thing was that it was more of a preventative thing. They do predict a storm with a lot of lightning coming in tonight. It's not like there is a fire right outside of Fremont at this point, but the potential for lightning strikes is such that they would do the evacuation order. So,
and I would sincerely hope they do. No lives lost is my main priority.
Vinny, do you know, does that affect the Scotts Creek area?
You can look at the fremont.gov site. It's basically everything to the east of 680,
Okay.
except there, and the east of Mission. Everything in the hills there, basically. The fremont.gov website does have an accurate map. So.
Okay, so for everybody joining us, it's 6:05, so I will go ahead and get started, and I will continue to allow people in as they come in. So a couple things. The first thing that I would like to say, of course, is that this meeting is recorded, and I do post them on YouTube eventually and share them on our social media or put the link to it on our website. Because this club was founded on the principles of transparency, and I think it's very important to make sure that people have access to information about candidates when it comes time to vote. Second of all, just a little bit about our club for those of you who are new here. We are a unchartered, so we're not really nonpartisan. We're progressive, but we do not affiliate with the Democrat. We do not charter with the Democratic Party. Because we feel like a lot, especially younger candidates and whatnot, don't necessarily fully identify, and they want to be NPP or they want to be green or peace and freedom and fun stuff like that. And we want to make sure that all those candidates have an opportunity, as long as they're progressive, to qualify for our endorsement. And that's something that we did coming out of the Bernie Sanders campaign, because you're not a Democrat, only goes so far. So with that being said, tonight is our school board and Ohlone trustee candidate forum. Welcome everybody. We have a lot of candidates. I'm going to allow them all to introduce themselves. Nobody messaged me to tell me that they have any type of time restriction. So our format is going to be more open. If you're one of our candidates, then you can respond to the questions. If you have questions, you may send them to me privately in the chat, or you may put them out in the open on the chat. I accept all of them. I assume if you let me know what the question is privately, I'm going to assume that you want your anonymity protected. So that's our basic announcement. So we will get to it. We have a lot of candidates here tonight. I'm going to allow all of you a 90-second opening. Please make sure to tell your name, the office that you're running for, a little bit about your history, the normal stump speech. And then our club always prepares a few questions for candidates to get things rolling. And then we will take questions from the audience. Some people are on an evacuation notice right now, as the mission part of Fremont goes up in flames potentially. So we're going to be mindful of that as well. With that being said, I'm going to start with the first candidate that I see, and maybe you could popcorn it to somebody else, and that would be Melissa Swen-Mallory.
All right, hello everybody, good evening. My name is Melissa Swen-Mallory. My pronouns are they, them, and I am running for New Haven Unified School Board Governing Member in Trustee Area 2. This is our first election in trustee areas, so we used to be at large and now we're in trustee areas. My particular area has no current incumbent on the school board. I do have an opponent that I'm running against who used to be on the school board but has not been recently. I'm running because I really got inspired to run during the New Haven teacher strike, which I have my commemorative sign behind me. And it went on for 2 weeks and it got national attention. And I just feel like we need to put our classrooms first, because when our teachers have the right resources, then they will be able to teach our students the best. And I also want to make sure we are decriminalizing our students, ending the school to prison pipeline. And I want to make sure that we are representing our students well, and that we build a bridge between the city and the school district to serve our families the best. And I would like to represent our LGBTQ students as potentially the only LGBTQ person on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Popcorn it?
I'm going to popcorn it to Desiree. I think you're a candidate.
Shiz.
Yes, hi, I'm Desiree. Everybody calls me Desiree, but I was actually born Desiree. And so I am currently on the Fremont Unified School District Board of Education. I have been a member of the Board of Education, or elected to this position, for 8 years. So I have been really enjoying my time as a school board member in spite of all that we're going through right now. I think the most pressing thing and one of my top priorities is to deal with the distance learning and the impact of learning loss on students, particularly our at-promise students. I think that it's going to be really, really important that we understand the implications of SB 98 and what that means for attendance, because attendance is going to be what's going to drive our ability to actually make sure that we're touching and helping all of the students, and again, particularly our at-promise students who may not have the technology, may not have the quiet place at home to sit and study. And so I just really want to make sure that our district is looking at this distance learning from an equity lens. Is it, you saying time? Because I see you're on mute, so I can't hear you. Oh, 5 seconds. Okay. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here to talk to you about my campaign and why I want to continue to be a part of Fremont Unified and how much I've enjoyed doing that over the last 8 years. Thank you.
All right, and you get to popcorn to another candidate.
Okay, who do I see? I see it just for school board
or Ohlone trustee.
Oh, Ohlone trustee. Okay, Lucy.
Hi.
She. Okay.
Hello. I'll just go. Hi, I'm Lucy. I use any pronouns. I'm running for Fremont School Board in Area 5. My background is actually in community organizing. I organize with Safe Fremont Sex Ed to advocate for medically accurate and inclusive sexual health education for all of our students. After that, I was appointed by the board to the Sexual Health Curriculum Task Force. And after that, I've been working to advocate in Fremont for our Housing Navigation Center, the tobacco retail license, and more recently for the removal of SROs, of school resource officers, from our campuses. I really think we should reinvest the $800,000 a year in funding into hiring mental health professionals and social workers for our students. I'm running though because I think representation is very important. 89% of Fremont Unified School District students are not white, and I'd love to see that represented on the board a little bit more. In the past few months, I'm sure a lot of us have been thinking about racial justice a lot. And so I feel like it's important to elect a progressive person of color who will push for anti-racism education and diversity in teaching in all of our schools. So I'm representing the community and the district that I grew up in, and I believe that I'm the right person to serve as a bridge between the parents and the educators and district staff, and particularly given the demographics of Trustee Area 5, which includes lots of first generation and immigrant parents just like my own. So given the current pandemic, my first priority is the health and safety of all of our students and staff and educators and parents. So I'd like to make sure that all students have access to the resources they need while they're in remote learning right now. The second priority is making the school district more transparent and to make public participation in the decision-making more accessible. Okay, cool. And you can learn more about the platform.
A lot more questions, Lucy, don't worry. And I want to personally apologize to forgetting to put you on the newsletter. I just carelessly copy and paste off the ROV at 11 o'clock at night watching Married at First Sight on Lifetime. I can't be trusted. But with that being said, you can popcorn to another school district or Ohlone trustee candidate.
Yeah, how about Lance?
I knew that was coming. Hi, everybody. My name is Lance Kwan. I am a born and raised Fremont resident that's also second generation Asian immigrant to our community. I'm running for Ohlone Community College Board of Trustees because of the fact that I think that there is a little bit of a generational divide on our current board. The way that our current board sits right now, it is very ethnically diverse, which is great. It's just, you know, there is no one sub 50 currently at least running right now. And I do think that it is time for, you know, us to have a, you know, a new perspective, a new generation, hopefully step up into that type of leadership role. It is also really important that, you know, people understand that community college is a great way to jumpstart your educational career. And I think that especially at this time where we're looking into distance learning, this is a time for us to be excited about, you know, coming back to our community colleges and maybe not spending nearly as much on tuition. It also is really important to me to run for this position because I also am not really aware if Ohlone College has had another LGBTQ community member, and I am actually officially like openly gay Fremont Human Relations Commissioner, so it makes a really big deal. So much.
All right, and you get to pick.
Let's do a popcorn to Michael Gonzalez.
Excellent. Go ahead, Michael.
All right, back to Union City. Yeah, my name is Michael Gonzalez. I am running for New Haven School Board, Trustee Area 3. From when my mother was pregnant, my grandmother Helen and Grandma Carmen were all on strike on the picket line, and my mom was pregnant with me. So I'm a unionist, father, longtime unionist, very progressive. I went away to actually Los Angeles. I've been in Los Angeles for the last 18 years. And in 18 years, we've been fighting the privatization movement. And so I had an unbelievable career there, but I'm back now. So fighting charter, you name like everything that happened in LA, we've been through it. And so what happens in LA tries to spread to the rest of the country. And before stuff is popular, like Black Lives Matter, we were on it with random searches. We've been part of actually our leaders, been part of Black Lives Matter movement and having to say and educating our members. So my priority, now that I'm back, 10 seconds, is budget. I want to prioritize the budget. I've been working on Proposition 15. We need some real progressive taxes, not regressive taxes. Okay, I will pass it on to back to Fremont, Greg Bonacorsi.
Go ahead, Greg.
Hello, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. I'm Greg Bonacorsi, and I currently serve on the Board of Trustees for the Ohlone Community College District. And I want to thank you, the Fremont, Newark, Union City Progressives, for interviewing me this evening and having our conversation. I do want to begin by acknowledging that the land I am from is the traditional and ancestral home of the Ohlone, and I wish to recognize and thank the Ohlone peoples as the original stewards of this land. I'm running for re-election because our strength as a community is dependent upon a strong public education, which includes a strong community college. As a lifelong teacher in Fremont Unified School District and a product of our public schools, I will continue to be a strong advocate on the Ohlone board. My focus over the next 4 years will be first to increase our college's capacity to be a gateway to higher education and career vocational training with a renewed emphasis of students of color. Second, to maintain high quality educational programs and services for all students. And 3, to keep Ohlone a healthy place to work and to learn during unprecedented challenges from COVID-19. So thank you for inviting me to this conversation. I look forward to listening, responding to your questions, especially around the issues you advocate under the 12-point pledge. And again, I'm looking at the alerts, and if I might have to take off, I apologize in advance. So thank you.
That's okay. Please pick somebody else to go next. Popcorn.
Yes, thank you. Michelle?
Thanks. I'll assume I'm the only Michelle on here. My name is Michelle Burke, and I am running for Fremont Unified School District Board Trustee Area number 5, as is Lucy. I've been on the school board. I was appointed in 2015 and was elected in 2016. And what makes me a unique candidate is not just that I've been a sitting member, but actually I'm a parent of a student who's in Fremont. And I work in a school. I am an educator. I have my teaching credentials, and currently I'm working as a principal at my school site for early childhood education. So I believe in the value of public education and want to provide some continuity, because we have a lot of changes, as we all know, with the pandemic, with systemic racism in education. And we also happen to have new cabinet members coming on board in Fremont. And I believe somebody who is working in a school, somebody who's experiencing it as a parent, and somebody who has the experience of the last 5.5 years, specifically around financial and budgetary situations, I feel that I can bring that consistency and that perspective that is unique. I mentioned a little bit about the systemic racism. We really need to look at our curriculum instruction within the confines of what the California Department of Education provides us, and provide culturally responsive instruction for both our teachers and our students. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you. And do you want to popcorn to another candidate?
Of course, I will popcorn to, well, can people raise a hand if they're running?
Yes, raise your hand, or if you're a candidate and you want to just say something real quick. You're
okay. Jancy?
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jansi Kalapala, and I'm running for the Fremont Unified School District, District 4. I'm a parent and mother, and I've been living in, say, Fremont from past 18 years, and I've been involved in the PTA, Parent-Teacher Community, Parent-Teacher Association from past 8 years from the schools, different schools, and I've been involved in the student activities and the school. School issues to the school board and fighting for those and getting helping our students further with the educational activities and equality in the schools and the seminars. And my main motive for running for the school is like our schools are like overcrowded right now. It is the biggest issue in our Fremont. And even though it is like we need the facilities which can accommodate a lot of students which are like going to the different schools. As a parent, I'm much sure it's a big issue and that needs to be resolved. And the second issue is like we need to bring the facility funds to build the new schools. And the second one is for our teachers. And the teachers and we need a high quality education where the teachers need to live in our community, and for them we need to help them to get their salaries and hikes and help in that one. And we need to bring the equality and safety into the schools also. Thank you.
Thank you. So who else is a candidate? I will, we're starting to now run down. Terrence, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Thank you very much. I've been for 30 years, I was an urban planner, economic developer, and also have been the president of the Newark Educational Foundation for many years. I'm devoted to public education and a product of it myself, and helped my son through San Francisco Unified Public Schools from K through high school. The key issues I see that we're facing right now in Newark is that we need to move forward with distance learning, and I'm particularly concerned that the digital divide doesn't really hold back those students with economic difficulties. So not just sending home a Chromebook, we have to make sure there's Wi-Fi and access to materials. So I'm particularly concerned that the underprivileged children don't pay any, aren't damaged by the situation. Also want to see the schools get open as soon as is safe, but want to make sure that those determinations are based on science, not on politics. So I'd love to see the schools get reopened.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. And I also want to work to resist the rollback. I want to roll back and resist Betsy DeVos's changes to education in this country.
Candidates now have their hands up, so I will go ahead and call on JP. Yeah, that's what's up there. Go ahead, JP.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's safe. I know we're in very unusual times right now. My name is Jatinderpal Kaur Sahi, and I'm a candidate for New Haven Unified District Trustee for Area 1. First and foremost, I'm a parent of a 4th grader, and my ambition to run stemmed from how recent events have affected her. Usually, we as grown-ups don't realize the impact that our actions have on the younger generations. I want to bring new, fresh ideas to the table, think outside the box, as I do in my nonprofit free clinics that I manage. I grew up in Kansas attending public schools as a minority. Since I've been in Union City, I've been involved in New Haven since before my daughter started school. I've been involved in community committees such as renaming Alvarado Middle School, awareness events. And since my daughter started school, I've participated in school and district events. So it seems every year we run into the same issues, and they're the same issues being discussed over and over. Why can't we solve them and move forward? Our teachers should be able to live in our community. Our children should have equal access to the programs across the district. Each of the schools should have the same equitable programs across the school district. And as we as a city and a school district should recognize and celebrate our diversity, we, at the end of the day, are one community. Let's rise together by investing in our future.
Thank you. And so Lance, the other Lance, Lance Nishihira, you can go next.
Okay, there's almost never any other Lances. Usually I'm the only Lance, but so glad to be in good company. My name is Lance Nishihira. I have served on the New Haven Unified School District since 2016. I lived in the area my whole life. I went to Newark Memorial, graduated in 91. And in 2005, my daughter's school asked for volunteers for school site council. I had no idea what that was. But my entire life, I've kind of felt that there's a sense of service. I was a Marine. I was an Eagle Scout. So service is kind of in my DNA. In my capacity as a school site council member, I learned a lot. I learned that the school that I was in, my family was in, Hillview Crest, which is lower on the socioeconomic scale, did not have the same resources as a lot of other schools. For example, you know, at Hillview Crest, we might have a jogathon that might bring in $6,000. The other side of the school district can bring in $75,000. That is not equitable, and I think that that same lack of equity follows through the curriculum and the academic programs that are available. So those are some of the big reasons why I am running for re-election, and I'm happy to take other questions. Thank you.
And so lastly, we have Tawny Warren, who is actually here representing Amit Patel for Ohlone Trustee, I believe. And Tawny, feel free to correct me if you're wrong. I allowed her to come speak on their behalf because they're in the evacuation zone. So Tawny, you can go ahead and give the statement on behalf of Amit.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. So hi, everybody. My name is Tawny Warren, and as Chelsea stated, I am, here representing a candidate. His name is Amit Patel, and Amit. He and his family are dealing with evacuations because he and his family live actually quite close to the Fremont main campus of Ohlone College. And so if you give me just a moment, for those of you who know me, you know I'm blind, and so give me just a moment to switch over so I can see to read his statement, okay? Give me just a moment. Sorry. Blind lady problems, guys. So, all right. You're so patient with me. Okay, and I'm gonna post a picture of Amit so that you see him while I am reading his statement, okay? And go. And all right, let's see. I think, yeah, okay. So, all right, so sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna get back to where my starting point is. Okay, so I'm going to read to you guys exactly what he wrote here. It's, hi everyone, I am Tani Warren. I will be standing on behalf, or speaking on behalf of Amit Patel. Unfortunately, due to circumstances surrounding the wildfires, Amit will not be able to attend the forum today, as he and his family are dealing with the evacuation risk near his home. He has written this statement, which I will be reading. Hello, everyone. My name is Amit Patel. I am running for the Ohlone College Board of Trustees. My intentions for running are simple. Due to current events and the realities of this year, I felt the call to action to become further involved. From the murder of George Floyd, there was an immediate call to action to address and dismantle systemic racism and injustices, as well as to find ways to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion across education and the workforce. We are also amidst a global pandemic, and there is a need to adapt and innovate education with the current times. At Ohlone College, this includes incorporating social distance learning and understanding how this new form of learning is different across all departments. The California community colleges are also in the middle of evaluating new ways of serving students. For example, dual enrollment processes and delivery, and also understanding the need for new sources of funding for the longevity of our institution. A little bit more about myself, Amit Patel. I am a full-time artist, dance educator, entrepreneur, as well as an activist for the LGBTQ plus community. My work involves using art as a medium for social change. I have been doing just that for about a decade. For me, this is personal. This year, the dance and art industry has dramatically shifted, and I had to innovate in order to survive and now thrive with the changes I have had to make. The work I do aims to push the status quo surrounding diversity, normalize gender roles within the arts and society, and create safe spaces for those who wish to express themselves through movement. My work has given me the honor of teaching all around the country. I have taught dance workshops at the University of Southern California. I was a guest speaker at the University of Michigan in 2019, speaking on dance, diversity, and identity. I will also be teaching a dance masterclass at the University of Maryland this fall. My career as a dance educator involves showing the power of diversity and mixed identities. My work has also led me to teach on international platforms, including teaching and performing in Finland, Greece, Spain, the UK, and a month-long teaching tour in India, all of which have included spreading awareness about the LGBTQ plus community, their history in the arts, as well as creating space for people to participate in cultural exchange. Ohlone has a huge international student population, and it is embedded in our core to foster a quality education experience that serves the entire range of our community. I am running in this election because I am a product of Fremont and the Ohlone College experience. I went to school here. I was in the Associated Students of Ohlone College, ASOC, student government for 3 years, and I served as president in my final year. I have been advocating for students and access to the arts for nearly a decade and believe I have a unique insight into the shared governance process at Ohlone College. Some of the highlights during my time at Ohlone include mobilizing students for the Rock the Vote campaign, educating and informing students and the community at large about various measures on the ballot, promoting voter registration, passing resolutions, and organizing transportation for students to attend the Women's March at the Capitol. Actively working to promote the passing of Proposition 30, which if it hadn't passed, it would have led to a severe cut in classes at Ohlone and across the state. We worked, time?
Yep, you went over your time.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
If you want to email me that, I will include it in our follow-up newsletter so that everybody can read the completion. And for those of you who are curious, since Amit is not here, I allowed their statement to be rather longer than your intros. So I'm going to get right to it because I know that we do have somebody that's going to be leaving soon. So Michelle, I will let you answer this question first. And everybody will receive, again, 90 seconds to answer this. The first question, for each of your prospective school districts or trustee districts, what is the biggest problem you think is facing your district? And what do you think is the greatest strength of your district? Michelle, you can go first. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
I hesitate because there, when you say problem, there's an S at the end of that. We have a lot of challenges in Fremont, but one thing that we are very proud of is the commitment that our community members, our stakeholders, our teachers, and our students have to their own education. And so one of the challenges we have is, again, if you had asked me this question maybe 6 months ago, I would have had a very different answer, but is how do we provide currently a safe environment for our students, the staff and their families as we think about returning to school. And then within that, we have the challenge of the systemic racism that we have started to hear from our student voices, and we've had different panels throughout the school district. And again, that is a strength of our school in that the students are speaking up and taking the lead and telling the adults about what they need and want from their school. So while it's a challenge, I think we have the resources within our school district to accomplish that. One of the challenges that faces all school districts, finances. We simply are not funded sufficiently, and 2008 levels of full and fair funding, it doesn't meet any kind of criteria. And that's why I support closing the gap with the Schools and Communities First initiative. We have a problem also with our curriculum and instruction because it is very white Eurocentric, and we need to look at how we can make it more relevant to our students in a safe way. And by doing that, it ensures the safety of every stakeholder in our community.
All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna go with who I see next on my screen, and that is Lance N.
Okay, sorry. Wow, there's quite a few problems. As I mentioned in my opening statement, equity and access, and just a very uneven amount of preparation that particularly our middle schoolers go through. We have 2 different middle schools, and one middle school does not actually have project-based learning, and the other one does, and it's very, very apparent. My daughter, Maya, just was in the 9th grade, and she said, I can actually see the difference in levels of preparation. That's a problem. We like to, think that we are in a desegregated and integrated school district, but when you look at resources and we look at things, things that are available to all students, there are big inequities. There's also issues related to budget and funding. You know, it's no secret that we need to find sustainable, renewable ways of increasing the top line revenues. And that's a challenge with declining enrollment. Our enrollment continues to decline. And so, but now I want to kind of talk a little bit about the things that we have going great. We have a great community that comes together in times like this. During the start of virtual learning, I saw parents helping parents and teachers helping teachers. Our teachers are awesome, and they really helped us get us prepared for virtual learning, and I'm very proud about that.
Okay, great. And then next on my list, I have, who is that? Lance K. The Lances hang out together, right? Stacked.
Okay, wasn't expecting that. So for Ohlone Community College, I feel like one of the greatest strengths is its actual diversity. It does reflect a lot of what the community is around Fremont, Eden City, Newark, and it is a really diverse school population. I think the two main challenges, obviously, the first one is COVID and distance learning as a primary initial challenge of, hey, what are we going to do between this year and next year? You know, online courses are definitely not new, but are definitely harder for for some of our class types, and it's definitely not something where you want to be trying to do your own home lab or your own home, like, you know, other projects. There are things that are more easily done online, and, you know, the engagement of students is a lot harder when you're online. So it is definitely a challenge that you want to make sure that as a board you are addressing it with your teaching staff, faculty, to make sure that your students are engaged and everybody, you know, everybody is equitable within that process. The second thing is obviously, thanks to the fun Trump economy and the way that we have our community college system budget set up, we are currently scared about the funding sources, and we definitely want advocates on our boards to be able to, you know, reach our state representatives to seek help, and then hopefully we can get national help as well eventually with a presidential change.
All right, time. Next on my list is JP. That's what your name keeps showing up as, so you're JP now. Sorry, Hen.
Yeah, that's my nickname. Thank you, Kelsey. Right. So I'm going to talk about the challenges first. So I see the challenge of returning safely to school as one of the biggest challenges. I've had to, in my nonprofit world, I've had to close volunteer-run free clinics, free medical clinics, and reopen them within the guidelines. And I have seen the challenges running these 10 clinics in reopening, and how are our schools, with the resources that they have, going to reopen safely. And there's also challenges for the high-risk individuals. We are going through a very unusual time. The second item is inequity across schools. And this is from starting in TK all the way to 12th grade. As seniors, the variety of programs is very diverse, but the equity across the schools is not equal. That's something that really needs to be worked on. And then there is in those schools, among the minority groups, there's a variation in the quality of education that they're getting. And then third, as always, budget, and across every school district probably, is how to think outside the box and do and raise funds for the schools. Nonprofits have had to do this. I mean, there's times when, you know, the economy changes, and now with the declining enrollment, it is a challenge. But how can we resolve that issue so we're not talking about this year after year? The school district does have a lot of strengths.
You're at time.
I'm at time. Okay.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to. Sorry, I'm trying not to like verbally say it. So if you see my hands, I'm trying to like give you a little bit of a countdown. But you're at time. Michelle, I know you said you have to leave. Do you want to give a 1-minute closing before you go, or do you want to stick around for a second?
I'm going to stick around. I to be honest, I'm also concerned about the evacuation. So
okay, just wondering. Keep me posted.
Yes.
Raise your hand and you got a minute to close if anybody needs to bounce out for any reason, okay?
Thank you.
So with that being said, the next on my list on my screen is Terrence. You can go ahead, Terrence.
Thank you. Need to unmute myself. The biggest problems in Newark schools is really the perception of the school quality, the educational quality. That's a primary issue. You know, of course, the immediate issues have to do with the need for distance learning and fighting COVID and getting the schools back open. But on the more structural basis, it's really the perception that the quality of education isn't up to the standards that the community is really expecting. The strengths really are the teachers and staff. They're devoted teachers. They're really committed to their schools. In addition, we have a great partnership with the city. The city has been very helpful in trying to coordinate activities. The city's boundaries are coterminous with the districts, and they've been in a good connection. And I've worked for the city for many years, so I know how to make that connection even stronger.
Thank you very much. Next on my list is Desiree.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Thank you. So of course we all understand and we appreciate the fact that we're in some really, really unprecedented times. We've never been here before. There's so much that we don't know about what's going on in the next school year. But it is important to note that distance learning, COVID-19, returning to schools is the most pressing issue for school districts across the nation, including in Fremont Unified. I think one of the strengths that we have, and it was demonstrated through when we were in our emergency state back in March, where we had to immediately shut down and families were concerned about food. We had our FUS and some other organizations coming together to provide food, was able to raise enough money to, to help our students and their families continue on the food program. So that is a big strength. Our Fremont Education Foundation has stepped up to help us ensure that we have the digital divide locked down in order to raise money for technology for those families who may not be able to have technology at home to do distance learning. So that is a really strength of our community. Our teachers and educators and custodians who also came out during that time to help. That's a strength of our community. Of course, we need to look more at equity in our curriculum and instruction, and we need to make sure that our most promised students are receiving a quality education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on the list, I have Greg.
Thank you. Well, I think the question was strength and problems. So I'm going to try with the strengths first. We are the #2 ranked community college in the state of California. We have excellent faculty, excellent staff. We have great labor relations. We have an outstanding board, and Tani's on the board right now. We understand our role as trustees. And very exciting is that we have a new president superintendent and Eric Bishop, Dr. Eric Bishop. So we're moving forward with some really good strengths. The challenges that we face, in addition to those that have already been mentioned here, is in the community college ranks, we have the student-centered funding formula, which is like the local control funding formula in the K-12 system, but it's based differently on metrics that each of the community colleges cannot have any control over. And for Ohlone, we are destined to have a very severe financial hit. Fortunately, that there has been some stays put into that implementation. And so we're continuing to work with our partners in labor, as well as within our community college and with our legislators to see what we can do to change that formula. Also, the biggest challenge beyond that is, of course, our enrollment and making sure that we meet the challenges that we face ahead. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Melissa, you're up.
All right, thank you. So some of the biggest problems that we're facing, of course, like every school district, is the distance learning with COVID-19 and trying to figure out what we'll do when we come back from shelter in place. The district has done a very good job of making sure that all students have the technology necessary to connect. They've been giving out hotspots, Chromebooks, and so forth. They have done a very good job of making sure students that rely on the school food are getting fed and their families are getting fed. So those are really great things. That's one of our strengths. We have a very strong community that takes care of each other. But we are facing things like, you know, a lot of kids don't have a place to be quiet and to learn. Some of their parents are essential workers, work 2 to 3 jobs, especially in my area. Are working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet, don't have time to be home with the kids to help with the homework. So we're still facing a lot of challenges when it comes to distance learning in equity, to make sure that all of our students, no matter their economic status or their family background or whether or not their parents speak English, can get a quality education at home. And also we're facing the challenge of how to bring our kids back to school and you know, make sure that we're sanitizing the schoolrooms and everything like that. And then the other thing is we're facing a big financial challenge with the budget and making sure that our budget cuts don't affect our classrooms.
All right, thank you so much. Lucy, you're next.
Cool. I want to start with our strengths. I start on a more positive note. We have a super diverse community here in Fremont, and I feel like I took it for granted growing up here. Like, this was normal to me, but it wasn't until I left for college that I was like, oh, the rest of the world does not look like this. I have really brilliant, beautiful memories of like Multicultural Week at Mission San Jose High School, and like we can take that stuff so seriously because we have actual people who represent those communities, like demonstrating dances and like cultural traditions with us and sharing food. That was a huge thing. So it was such a colorful experience to grow up in, and I'm really grateful for that. And I feel like it is definitely a strength of our community. I also think that this same community is like, I want to second all notes earlier actually about community participation, whether it's students or parents or faculty, like everybody participates in a way that I think is incredible. Our SURF is like our student organization. They have been organizing for 4 years to shift our calendars so that they don't have to take finals after winter break. They do it before. Like, I think you would be hard pressed to find a student community that is that involved with their school district. So hearing them talk about their work and how motivated they are by it has been truly moving. And like hearing about teachers talking at almost every school board meeting on all subjects ranging from like student mental health to curriculum content, like all of that is super powerful. And I'm really glad that we have such a participatory democracy here. There's also a flip side to that. There have recently been a lot of, not recently, for years now, there have been breakdowns in communication between our parents and the district. So there's a lot of like ironing out that we got to do there. We shouldn't need like teachers threatening a strike or working to rule to get what they need in salary.
Thank you, Lucy. Michael, you're next. Michael. Yoo-hoo. Okay.
Mike, you're on mute.
Oh.
Okay, how about now?
All right, go for it.
Okay, as much as I like to say budget crisis, when I first started teaching, we were ranked 48 in the nation as far as pupil spending. So I would say the biggest problem right now we're facing is this pandemic with the COVID-19 virtual distance learning. That is a major problem, and that it needs to be handled, and it also needs to be we need to listen to the practitioners, the teachers that are actually going through this. We have a lot of folks and politicians who have never taught that are giving their opinion when we need to listen to practitioners. I know in New Haven, the only data that they're getting is from the community, which is good, but there's never on the agenda to hear from educators what works and what doesn't work. And so as an educator, someone who has done virtual teaching, someone who has done a virtual graduation, I know what's best for our school district. So that is the biggest problem. But as far as the good thing about Union City, I'm going to push back against Fremont. Of course, I got a bias. Union City, I'm third generation, is the community. There's no place like Union City. It's so diverse. It is so rich in culture, historic. These are the ingredients who make me who I am. and I'm just very proud. You know, I've been all over California, and there's no place like home, Union City. And so the great folks here, James, Logan. Yes, that's it.
Okay, John C., go ahead and close us out on this one.
Thank you. First, I will talk about our strengths. It's like a Fremont is like as the previous BEMIS told that it is a diversity, a lot of diversity included in this place. And I'm very happy to be in this place, and my children are rising with the different cultures, with the different variety of cultures. And that is the one thing. And in this pandemic situation, everyone in the our teachers and our community and parents and the staff, everybody working together to whatever the difficulties of the distance learning. And still, when coming to the problem part, it is like distance learning, COVID-19 pandemic situation. In this situation, reopening the schools again, it has to be very strategic plan should be there. Being a healthcare workers, the manager, so there should be it should not be a very strategic plan to open the school back again with a very guided, measured, healthy, safe lines. The other one, the next one is like still we have a problem of not equality in the schools. It is like we have so many programs which are there in the PUST, but if you say that some schools doesn't have included the equality in this equity in the schools. And another thing is like inclusiveness in the schools. There is a problem which need to be worked in the schools, that is like inclusiveness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that is the first round. I've started getting some questions, so we're gonna move it into a audience submitted question, and that was Annie in the chat wanted to know more about thoughts on SROs. So if you could talk a little bit about, and to the Ohlone people, and I know New Haven has their own story that I'm sure will get shared. Just a little bit, your opinions on SROs on our campuses, the role of policing in education or on campuses, college, high school, and otherwise. And I'm gonna popcorn myself a little bit back and forth. Michelle, I'm gonna start with you again.
Thank you. When we think about the SROs, there's a lot of different angles. And so the officer part is very uncomfortable, and the idea of any kind of weapon on our campus is not acceptable. The R part, the resource part, is something that we might be able to figure out. And does it have to be a police officer who does that resource kind of support that we have seen from our typical SROs? And I don't think that's the case. And that's why we advocated at FUSD to reimagine, re-envision what that program and what that relationship could look like. We also need to look at some broader issues that impact all the schools, and that is who can actually call in a 5150. We've been told it's only a police officer who can call in, but then if that's the case, then we need to advocate for not having it so that we can get the mental health professionals in our schools to provide that kind of support.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned, I'm gonna give it 1 minute for these answers. John C., you can go next.
Okay, so the SROs, it is like, it is important for the protect in our schools, and also, but due to this pandemic, in this time, this allocating for this money for this SROs, it is for my, I am thinking that in this way, it is like that money, it could be spent into the different mental health issues and for students who need special education facilities. And this is since it is, we are in the distance education time.
Thank you. I love an answer that's 30 seconds, just so you know, Chauncey, that was amazing. Lance N., you can go next.
Hi, yeah, I think this is an area where I think I've actually shifted a little bit. At New Haven, we've had conversations about getting our SROs funded. We've actually had some challenges because we've been sharing the responsibility of paying for funding for an SRO for quite some time. And I'd say around this time last year, I probably would have said, hey, you know, we need to have, SROs, if not one, two, right? That was one of the things that Union City had mentioned, that we needed 2 SROs at James Logan. But I've kind of shifted on this a little bit, you know, with the most, with all of the racial injustice and a lot of the demonstrations recently around George Floyd. I've kind of rethought about that a little bit, right? So, defunding the police, I think it's an unfortunate title because I actually think that it's much deeper than that, right? It's about figuring out the right level of services that our community needs for those types of things. And I'm really in favor of re-looking at and redefining what SROs bring to the table at our campuses. Thank you.
Michael, you can go next. Are you on mute?
All right.
Oh,
yes, I'm good now. I think I'm good now. Apologize.
Go ahead. 1 minute.
Okay. Yeah, I'm against school police, defunding them. Absolutely. Even though our New Haven budget, didn't have it for this year, I would go as far as to never have that in our funding. It's not necessary. Growing up at Logan, they were threatening. It caused anxiety. Students do not feel safer. I even asked my nephew, and he also felt that it was a waste of resource, there to intimidate. And so I am absolutely against it. And in UTLA, before folks were getting woke, before George Floyd, we were on it. Random searches, we stopped that. We pushed back on defunding school police. We were on it. So that's it for.
All right. Thank you. Lance Kwan, you're next.
Yeah, so especially during the time of distance learning, I don't understand why we have to pay them. It's just research that's now definitely not being used, and could be definitely be used elsewhere. And I mean, it is unfortunate to say it like that, but I mean, quite frankly, it's a waste of resource. I think future-wise, right, if when campuses open back up, it's something where, for Ohlone Community College, I know that structure is a little bit different compared to school districts. I'm not really personally that in favor of having that because we actually have a police force that is not very far away. And if you ever ask the police what your model scheduling is of surveillance of different areas, there's a distinct set of cops for that area too. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Lance. And Lucy, go ahead.
Cool. I mean, long story short, I'm opposed to not having school resource officers on campuses. I mentioned that in my opening statement as well. I just feel like in the time of COVID-19, where we're facing an incredible budget shortfall, $800,000 is a lot of money to be spending, $768,000 to be exact. Also, just looking at the numbers, right? So around half of our SRO arrests are Hispanic students, even though that's 15%. Hispanic students are 15% of Fremont Unified School District. So that ratio looks a little bit uncomfortable to me. Also, just in terms of 5150s, right? School authorities can initiate that process. They can bring in clinicians to authorize the hold if necessary. I think the debate about whether 5150s are actually a good idea is a totally separate topic, but on the subject of where it's actually necessary, there are alternatives to having school resource officers. So you can always call in police officers if really needed. And I just want to highlight that New Haven School District doesn't seem to need school resource officers. So I don't understand why we would have to pay $800,000 a year to do the same thing that they're not doing. Yeah, ultimately, I feel like all the purposes that school resource officers serve can be fulfilled by other roles like mentors and teachers and vaping presentations and whatnot. So.
Time. Lucy, where was I? JP, go ahead.
So I have never understood the role of SROs. I don't think their place is in schools. In their place, we need to have other resources available for students, whether they're mental health specialists or, you know, growing up, we didn't have them. And it would be just like if we had an SRO sitting at our office, how would we feel? So I think we need to provide other resources for the kids. And, you know, in regards to 5150, there are other individuals that can call in a 5150. So I think that the SROs at New Haven need to be reviewed. And that funding source, the financial funding for it can be used for other resources.
Thank you so much. I'm going to now take it to Melissa. Go ahead.
Hi, absolutely. I am 100% against SROs in the schools. We took SROs out because of a budget reason, but I would go further to enact policy saying that we would never have them come back, even if we had the money. And to go further than that, we call the police way too often on our school campus to resolve issues that don't need police involvement. We have great mental health resources through the Fremont Family Center and through the Youth and Family Services here in Union City, and we need to utilize those resources for mental health issues and to de-escalate instances of you know, disputes between students or any other kind of potentially dangerous situation needs to be de-escalated by Youth and Family Services or by some other resource before we call the police. We call the police way too often. The police department's right across the street from the high school, so we have no reason to have an armed officer on campus.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Terrence, you're next.
Yes, hello, thank you. In Newark, we actually have a good relationship with the SROs at the district. However, I would stress the R part of the SRO, as was indicated by another panelist, and less so the officer. They do provide resources, and they do provide good connections to other resources. So in Newark, we don't have significant issues with it, and as long as there's oversight and good training, I think it's a positive thing for our district.
All right, thank you so much. And next is Greg. Go ahead.
Thank you. The community college, Ohlone in particular, has had its own campus security, not related to the city of Fremont's police department. And it's been in place for the protection of students. I think given the current circumstances that exist within our community and within our nation, I think it deserves another examination. And so I'm going to be speaking with the board chair and seeing if we can get this on the agenda to see what we want to do moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And next is Desiree.
Oh, hi. I've had my own experiences with police officers, not necessarily school resource officers. As you can well imagine, in my community, we are the racial injustices that are inflicted on Black and Brown individuals in our society is unacceptable. And it is. Oh, and I also want to note that Fremont is not paying the SROs while we're in distance learning. We have a note from the police chief that is explicitly saying that the Fremont Police Department will not be billing FUSD while we're in distance learning. So I think that our board decided that we were going to take a deeper dive into what it looked like to have SROs on our campuses, what the resource part of it was, and how we can get others to be able to do the work that the SROs are doing in terms of the resources. So I'm in support of taking a deeper dive, looking at what they do, who can do it differently, and I'm glad that we're able to work with the city to not have to pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bowen, since you are on this call, do you want to give your 1-minute answer, your thoughts on SROs or officers on campuses?
Yeah, so I want to repeat what just Desiree said. Same thing here at Newark. So our SO was actually paid by the city council, not from the, doesn't cost the district a bit. And I want to say hello to my fellow Newark veterans. I didn't get this, I guess you got it. Yeah, I actually agree with him. I think the good thing in Newark is so far we haven't had any incidents about this. And so we had a pretty good working relationship with this SRO. So I think for us, it's not really a controversial topic.
All right. Thank you. So the next question that I received in the stack is actually regarding our favorite controversial subject, and that is sex education in schools.
And since I added it, I'm so sorry to break into decorum. This is specifically for the New Haven Unified School candidates, because God knows for the last 15 years, we've always heard from Fremont. And thank God for Diane Jones. I see you. Okay.
Yes. So as Daddy Harris with his daddy beard said, sorry, I can't get over how hot you look with it. Yes, New Haven specifically, obviously, they're still facing this problem. Fremont has overcome and debated this hurdle in the past. The community college students, trustee, I'm going to skip you on this because I have a specific question for you directly after this. And Michelle, I'm going to let you answer first, and then you can also give your 1-minute concluding statement. You did message me that you were going to be leaving shortly. So I will give you 1 minute for your answer and 1 minute for your closing. Okay, Michelle?
Thank you. What is this question specifically about sex ed? So
I think specifically we would like to know basically what your vision of comprehensive sexual education is and where you think we can do better and worse normal stuff by our students.
For anybody in Fremont who was engaged in this process, they noted that I probably wore green more than I ever wore white when it came to the conversations that we were having at the school board. I was a strong advocate. I continue to be a strong advocate for health and puberty education, comprehensive, and I believe that it should be as young as possible. Even though at Fremont we start in 4th grade, it should be younger than that because we do have curriculum that addresses that. When it came time to do the vote, the one thing that I said to the parents was, you're telling me no, but our students are telling me yes. Your children are telling me yes. They are the authentic voice in this discussion because they're the ones who are living through it now or have lived through it very recently. And to me, even though it wasn't the students who necessarily are going to vote for me in this election, it's their parents who would probably vote me out because of my vote on sex education, it is imperative that our children learn from certified teachers, credentialed teachers, rather than the internet or from each other. And I would stand by the fact that parents will always have the option to opt out. And while it's not something I would choose for my own child, they do have that opportunity to opt out if that's what if they feel that it's that school is not the best place to learn about our bodies and ourselves. And again, it goes back to creating a safe environment in our schools for all students and staff.
Okay, thank you. So that was 1:27. Do you want to use your last 33 seconds as a closing, or are you going to stay with us?
I have a couple of minutes, but I have a feeling if we're going to go, for cycling.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'll give you your last 33 seconds.
Thank you. I just want to say that when my mom emigrated to the United States because she was escaping Nazi Germany, we didn't realize she didn't realize, of course, what the opportunities could be provided through a public education. Public education is supposed to be leveling the playing field for all students. Public education is where our funding should go, not to charter schools, not to private schools. We need consistency. We need to make sure that Fremont remains a unified school district, and I believe that I am that voice. I hope you'll join the Fremont Unified District Teachers Association in endorsing me for the upcoming election. Thank you everybody for your time. Stay safe. I know it's a crazy time, but be safe and hope to see you soon.
All right, thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.
So then now we'll go to some of the New Haven candidates. JP, I will begin with you.
Thank you, Kelly. So I do believe in sex and health education, and it should be age appropriate. You know, in doing research, 5th grade is a good grade level to have it in, and with the option for parents to opt out, of course, based on their beliefs if they want to opt out. And you know, certified teachers, you know, there's so much information going around on the internet, and our kids probably know better how to use these devices and internet than we do. So why not have them learn in a safe environment where they can openly ask questions and get the answers?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, next we will talk to Terrence.
I support sex and health education in the schools. I do agree that it's important that there's an opportunity to opt out, but it's very important that these kinds of issues are confronted with knowledge and understanding from experts rather than being dealt with on the internet or, you know, in the hallways. So I'm supportive.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to mix up my vibe a little bit, you guys. Next, we will go to Michael.
Yeah, so it seems like this is a hot topic in Alameda County. I'm from Los Angeles. Well, I taught in Los Angeles, 5th grade teacher, and actually I taught a portion of the health with sex ed. And we didn't have issues with it. Our only issues, and again, we were on it as far as who we were, United Teachers Los Angeles, on gender neutral roles. And so prior to this year, we had to divide up based on gender. Girls over here, they're gonna watch this video, and boys over here. This year actually was the first time we watched both videos, the male video and the female video. And so 5th grade appropriate. It's not that big an issue. So let the educators handle it.
All right. Thank you so much. Melissa, go ahead.
Okay, I am definitely 100% in favor of age-appropriate sex and health education, especially puberty education, that needs to be inclusive of the LGBTQ community, and it needs to recognize that not all people who menstruate are female-identified and vice versa, and especially including our transgender, non-binary, and intersex students. And of course, the parents can opt out for their students if they have issues based on their culture or religion. But we also need to teach consent. I think that that's a big thing that you can start teaching even as young as kindergarten in an age-appropriate way, such as, you know, you don't have to hug somebody if you don't want to, and your body is your body and it's your choice. And we need to teach our children that from a very young age so that we can break this cycle of rape culture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, I got a check mark. Desiree, go ahead.
I am definitely in favor of a comprehensive health and puberty and sexual ed education for our students. I think that it is extremely important that we do so for all of the reasons that have already been mentioned in terms of getting the quality education from the educators. I do want to caution people when they say that families can opt out. They can opt out of any lesson except the LGBTQ lesson. The law does not allow for opting out of that particular lesson, but they can opt out of any of the other lessons. And so parents need to understand that as well. We did a whole comprehensive study of that whole legislation that required, if you're going to do it, you have to follow the particular legislation that requires us to do that, the Healthy Something Act, I forgot what it's called. But, and I, of course, I did support it. And we supported a process that was inclusive of parents, teachers, consultants. Everybody played a role in providing a comprehensive sex ed program for our students. Thank you.
Calling time. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Lucy, you can go next.
Cool. Well, so as I mentioned in my opening statement, this is where my journey began. It all really began with as an advocacy / organizer with Safe Fremont Sex Ed is what we called ourselves. So from there, after I was appointed to the Sexual Health Education Task Force, basically our choice boiled down to 2 state compliant. So Desiree mentioned the CHIA, we've been calling it California Healthy Youth Act. There were only really 2 curricula that were compliant with that. And so that's what it boiled down to. And thankfully, there was a lot of parent support behind one of those curricula, actually. And we heard their voices when they were advocating against 3Rs essentially early. So I was really open to that idea. So I looked into PPP really carefully. PPP was the other one I should have mentioned. It was 3Rs versus PPP. And I found that they weren't that different. And so to sort of like, I felt like it was important that in the end that our main goal was to make sure that students had access to this curriculum, whatever it was that we chose. And if parents were to opt their students out, then it defeats the whole purpose. So I ended up voting for PPP actually, even though 3Rs won in the end. And I'm hoping that that gesture really helped to bridge the gap between the parents and our educators in the district.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Lance N., you are next.
Okay, so in New Haven, one of the things that we are, well, being a parent, right? So I've got three teenagers, and you know, really, it comes down to my wife and I, had the conversations with the kids, and it was really funny because it turns out that they learned more from their teachers. They knew more than we thought that they knew. And so it was really refreshing that the teachers at New Haven and the curriculum that we had, prepared them to have the conversations around that. So it was one of the things that we were prepared, that my wife and I were prepared to engage with the kids, that we actually didn't really need to. So I think the schools are doing a really good job. And I think they'll continue doing a good job in New Haven for years to come.
All right, thank you. And John C., go ahead.
I do support the 3 sex education in the schools because it is totally, our board members and the teachers evaluated the total curriculum. And the thing is it should be age appropriate, because being a parent, I have talked to so many parents because of the cultural stigma. And a lot of the parents, they have some kind of objection, so that for them to actually, we need some kind of lessons to the parents to understand why this is needed. And the thing is it should be age appropriate, and instead of learning from the internet, as Michelle said, it is better learn from the right resources, that is from the teachers, and I do support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bowen, would you like a minute to speak on this?
Yes, I support comprehensive sex education, and the good thing about Newark is this is actually not considered a political issue, so it's not a controversy. So unlike some other district. Okay.
Thank you so much. So next, this is specifically for the, I believe it's Lance and Greg that we have on for Ohlone currently. My question to you, actually, we're going to shift a little bit and talk about staffing. Just as a very quick background, I went back to Ohlone in my 30s, and so a lot of my professors really liked me because I was like a full adult who had paid rent and owned her own car. Hey. But one of the things I do know about Ohlone is that they have a very, very high rate of adjunct professors, especially compared to other community colleges. And they also pay their adjuncts a lot less than other community colleges. Can you talk a little bit about what your vision would be for how Ohlone staffs their professors and also how they pay them? And Lance, I will let you go first.
So my opinion on the whole adjunct professors not being paid equally across the board is one of those things where if we want Ohlone to continue to be like a top tier school for community colleges, which we're currently ranked #2, We obviously want to try to encourage to keep our staff as much as possible. You know, and I do understand that some professors rather be adjuncts so that they have that flexibility to be in different places. And they're not full-time at like one community college, or one college in general. But you know, it definitely is something where you want to be competitive and you want to try to make sure that the pay is there, but you also have to make sure that the finances are there to back it up too. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where, and we're on a recession, great. So it's trying to find that fine line to balance that as much as possible. I'm sure Greg has a much more in-depth answer than I do next, so listen to him for sure.
Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Lance. As Lance did say, adjunct faculty do like to have their flexibility to work on various campuses and not be tied down to one. Although my personal bias is that it'd be great to have as many full-time faculty as possible. I can assure you that as a trustee for several years, it has been our objective to make sure that we close the gap between the pay and benefits that the adjunct faculty have with the full-time faculty. And there have been improvements in that regard, in particular, not only with the pay, but also with access to office and office hours for each of them. So it's a continual work in progress, and we work with giving direction to make sure that those issues get bargained, and we only accept tentative agreements where there's been progress in that area. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I got another question. This is going to go specifically to the New Haven Unified School District members, and we will have another fun question for the rest of you following. New Haven School District is apparently the Crack-a-Lackin' School Board district this election. But, you know, Union City has been on our hearts and minds for a long time, so I love to see it get a lot of attention. Here's the question for the New Haven School Board candidates. The New Haven Teachers Association wanted to tap into funds from the Cabello property sale and state required reserves totaling $10.5 million to fund salary increases. If you disagree with the actions of the board, can you explain at what point in the negotiations you would have given New Haven Teachers Association their requested contract? I don't know who submitted this question, but I love you. And how would you continue to fund these costs after the depletion of the initial fund? For current board members, can they explain their decisions and actions and why they felt they were appropriate? And also, simple yes or no, have you read the audited financials? So to expand this question, we're going to start with New Haven. I'm going to broaden this question for the others. But let's start with, I'm going to go in reverse order. So I'll start with Melissa.
Okay, this is a good question. I can probably guess who asked it. So as the general public, I actually have spent a lot of hours trying to find the actual financials for the school district. And unfortunately, as a citizen, it's really hard to find. Search the school board meeting notes, everything. So I do not know, unfortunately, I'm not privy to the details of this particular deal or what the bargaining team went through. But I do know that from what I've heard, that our reserves are above what is the recommended level. And I think that it is perfectly reasonable, since we are in a budget crisis, to tap into the reserves that are, that are above the required minimum, and use them to go ahead and give our teachers the COLA increase, which is the cost of living increase. They had not gotten it for a while, and I know this past year that was all about, them not getting the COLA increase again. And so I would definitely put that as a priority in our budget over, other things that are asking for money.
All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. And then we will go to Lance N.
All right, so it's important to understand kind of the basis for how that money was actually, set aside. That money actually should have never been in the ending balance. It shouldn't have been in the general fund at all. The way that the money was allocated from the state board was that it could be used for facilities and capital improvements. So it's actually not even really money that we could have touched. So setting the legal aspect of it aside, you then look at the dollars. The dollars, you know, between on how you look at it, is $9 to $10 million. At the run rate that we actually had, our run rate's about $250,000 a day. So that would probably be about a month to a month and a half that's pretty much as long as it would last. So ongoing raises, it would be really hard to be able to make that last.
Thank you so much. And so, JP, go ahead.
So my understanding is that the funds that were required from the sale exceeded the required reserve amounts that were mandated by the state. So, you know, the question initially was, at what point during the conversations would you have brought that in? I think that could have been legally reviewed before any actions were taken by the Teachers Association, and tried to sit at the table and see how those funds could have been used towards the negotiations.
All right, thank you. And Michael, you can go ahead.
As a endorsed candidate of New Haven Teachers Association, yes, spend the money, spend the reserve. I know I just went on strike 2019, and that was our same issue, that, you know, we don't have money, we can't spend the reserve. But no, spend the reserve. And then the follow-up question, you said, what are you going to do to ongoing to supplement that money? And it's something progressive, not regressive. Having our community have to pay for these salary raises. It's the main issue we have is per pupil spending, a state issue. So I would say something more progressive of a tax to generate that money.
Thank you so much. So to our candidates that are not New Haven specific, but to keep it in this broad general sense, what do you consider the priorities when you're negotiating wages with the teachers union? And do you support giving all staff in schools, including, you know, administrators and stuff, COLA increases? And I will start with Bowen.
Thank you for this question. So 6 months ago, before the lockdown, we negotiated a 3-year no reopener contract with our labor employees. It's 1%, 1% COLA this year, 2% this new year, and 2% the year beyond. That's before the lockdown. So even though the next 2 years, the state will give us no COLA, our labor partner will get 2% this new year and 2% next year. Even after this, we're projecting 2 years of straight balanced budget. At the end of the 2 years, once the 2% COLA is applied, we'll have a reserve 3 times as big as the state minimum because of our fiscal discipline and our healthy and constructive relationship with our labor partner. We don't have this problem in New York. We may have other problems. Having a bad and unconstructive relationship with our labor partner is not one of the problems in New York.
All right, thank you so much. And to keep it Newark, Terrence, you can go next.
Yes, well, I would agree with Bowen. I think that Newark Unified's in a good financial situation. I would comment in general about using reserves for ongoing expenses. It's always important when you're doing planning, budgeting, that you use one-time monies for one-time expenditures and pay for your ongoing expenditures with ongoing revenue.
Thank you so much. And next we will hear from Lucy.
I feel like a cost of living adjustment is basic, because if you're not doing that, then you're basically giving teachers a pay cut or like expecting free labor. Like as the cost of living goes up, then your expenditures go up. And so the amount that you're being paid is effectively lower to the next year if you're not making the adjustment. So that seems like a pretty basic thing to me. I also want to emphasize that years ago, our school district negotiated with the teachers union to basically trade some healthcare benefits so that they could have a higher salary. That was way before recent increases, like massive escalation in healthcare costs. And so I think it's high time that we revisited that agreement, particularly in the middle of a pandemic. I feel like it's unconscionable that our teachers are basically having to pay $2,000 a month to insure their families. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
All right, thank you so much. And next, okay, let me look at my list. She left, so I answered. Desiree, go ahead.
Okay. I think the question was, what are some of the things that you consider when you are thinking about giving teachers raises or looking at your budget at the end of the year? I think one of the things that's very important is to look at your ending fund balance. The state will not be giving us a COLA. The COLA, when we give raises, we give it because we get it. And if we don't get it, then we can't necessarily always give it. I think a multi-year agreement for salary increases is very smart. I think that's something that we did last couple of years, so that we'll not renegotiate salary year over year over year, because it can be very, 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 very daunting task. I think deficit spending is something that all school districts are doing because the state is not funding us at the levels that we need in order to be able to educate our kids successfully. And I agree that one-time money should not be used for ongoing expenses. And I also agree that facilities dollars, there's restricted and unrestricted dollars, and we just have to be careful that we can't use restricted funds for general fund purposes.
Thank you so much. That was almost exactly a minute too. Those were amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, Jancy, go ahead.
So it is like in the budget issues, it is like one of the, in FUSD also, it has been multiple times, it is rising. But since it is like the COLA, the state is not funding for us for that one. So we have to very careful and brilliant to spend our budgets. And it is every year, we cannot do this thing. And it has to be prioritize, and it has to go to the students. The main their resources is the first priority, I believe. So it has to be the budget. When you are preparing the budget and adopting the budget, we have to be very careful to do these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Greg, go ahead.
Yes, from the Ohlone standpoint, we've been able to offer COLA increases for a very, very long time. And we make sure that when we address in closed session these topics, that opinion is stressed. But on a bigger picture, this is an opportunity to think about the impact that Proposition 15 would have should it pass, and it will pass. The possible wealth taxes that are in the legislature right now, and the other ways of raising revenue. We're talking about a small pie, and we're talking about COLA. Let's think bigger and get those things taken care of where we can, and all work together for that, so that we're not just looking for, oh, can they get a COLA or not? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Lance Kwan, you can close us off on this one.
Yeah, expand on Greg's point too, yeah, Prop 15 is an important first step. We can't end there. There's a lot of stuff that we need to look at on the state level where we can hopefully actually raise more, so we can actually get to a CPI increase, not a COLA increase. Because, yay, I paid basic income adjustments for everything, but now also everything costs more. Hey, that's a great first step. Why don't we actually have a full, hey, let's look at a livable income and then increase it as such, especially for the professionals that we have here. And it is a really big thing where we need to be big advocates as trustee board members from all different points to make sure that, the state is putting in their promise on making sure that we have quality education systems throughout the state of California.
Thank you so much. And so we have one last question, and then we're going to go into the closing statements. So our last question is, how do the school board and Ohlone College Trustee candidates understand carceral education and its relation with mental health, particularly concerning our students that are not white? And I am going to let Jancy answer this one first.
So in our schools, the mental health issue is the biggest crisis right now. So there are, if you see the in the United States, among 1 in 5 the student, they are having the difficulties with the mental health issues. So the schools and the community, as a parent, everybody work together to resolve these issues. And we have elementary school also, it has that. And in our schools, that the counselors, health counselors, it is not like a full-time, most of the schools, and they need to be in the campuses. It is very, very crucial right now, because the students, which is like, I'm the classroom parent, the volunteer, so many years I've been there. So I've seen the students which are struggling with the issues, and I've talked. So we need to bring that issues to as a teacher, the teacher has to talk with the student and what are the issues he's carrying, and at the same time the counselor, and it has to go, if it is medical help, it is needed immediately, they have to refer to the medical doctors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I will ping pong it up to Lance N.
Sorry, there was a word in there that you used I didn't quite understand. Can you restate the question? I couldn't hear it.
Yes, absolutely. And it's in the chat as well. I copied and pasted it for everyone. How do school board and Ohlone College Trustee candidates understand carceral education and its relation with mental health, particularly concerning students of color?
Okay, I'm actually not familiar with that particular type of education. But I will talk a little bit about mental health. Mental health is extremely important, especially in times of COVID-19. It's being able to have our students able to to rely on their teachers to reach out, and because right now, specifically right now, feeling distanced and isolated in a learn from home situation. I think it's really critical that our teachers and our counselors are able to check in on a regular basis to make sure that our kids are doing okay.
Wonderful, thank you. And just to clarify, you do have a few more seconds left. So carceral education is kind of about the school to prison pipeline and the way that the education system, helps feed non-white students into the prison system. So if you'd like to take your last 25 seconds to speak on that, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the key measures that we're really looking at right now is disproportionality of discipline. And that is something that I brought up to the school board several times as being an area of focus for us to really investigate. So it's certainly part of the conversation currently, and we'll continue to investigate it.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, we did Chauncey, we did Lance. Melissa, go ahead next.
All right, I already brought it up in one of my previous answers on SROs, but the school to prison pipeline is a real thing, especially for our Black and brown students. Once a student is entered into that pipeline, it's really hard for them to get out, and it becomes a vicious cycle. And it has been shown, as Lance N mentioned, there has been an issue within New Haven Unified School District of our Black and brown students being disciplined way more than our white students, and that absolutely has to end. We have to get to the bottom of it, give unconscious bias training to our teachers and staff, and like I said, not call the police unless absolutely necessary.
All right, thank you very much. Terrence, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. The what's important is the resource part of SRO and education and training of the staff to help overcome that unconscious bias, which we all know is there. So that what's important is to address this issue, confront it, and make sure the resources are there to help break that cycle, to break down the pipeline.
Thank you so much. Desiree, you can go ahead.
Okay. The school to prison pipeline is real, and it's particularly real in the environments around Black and brown students in schools. The California spends about $11,000 per student each year, but they spend $81,000 a year to incarcerate each prisoner. So definitely we need to take the money out of the prison pipeline and put it into the education pipeline. We need to understand what toxic stress is doing to families and what that means and how we can use that to help support our mental health struggles that kids are having through, our Surgeon General talks about toxic stress and adverse childhood experiences and what they mean. We need to look at more practices that are healing practices and that bring families and communities together, like social justice practices as opposed to punitive practices, because kids are dealing with lots and lots of stressors, and we need to educate our kids on our families on those stressors, educate our educators and our health professionals to help our families. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Bowen, go ahead.
Yeah, so we solved about this carceral state problem by emphasizing 2 points in our district. It's education equity and cultural competence. So let's first talk about education equity. That's why the school board had a restorative justice meeting that to understand how we discipline and suspend students so we don't feed into the school to prison pipelines. And when it comes to cultural competence, we have professional development program for our teachers who understand many of our students come from background where this is a cultural taboo to talk about mental health struggles. That's why we need to train our teacher to reach out to the students, to tell them that it's okay to admit that you might be struggling mentally. It's okay to seek help. There is no cultural shame of admitting that you have mental health problems.
Thank you so much. And yes, there's no shame whatsoever. Okay, sorry, my list is starting to get a little, I'm trying to check, so it's getting a little messy, but let's see. Lance Kwan, go ahead.
In a community college setting, it's a little bit different, obviously, by that point in time. If there's a student that's currently in the depths of a school to prison pipeline, they've already been integrated from the junior high and high school levels. And either they're studying at a community college to hopefully better themselves, or they are in and out of the community college in that same kind of pipeline still. I think it's at that point, it's a little bit late to kind of try to break that pipeline. It's a start of hey, let's make sure there's a betterment of a person. But I mean, at that point, we're considering it as full-fledged adults that are now labeled as criminals, and that we're trying to reintegrate them into society. And that rhetoric is a lot harder to break, and it's something that we want to definitely tackle on the K through 12 ed side.
Thank you, Lance. Lucy, go ahead.
Well, okay, so I mean, the school to prison pipeline goes really deep. It goes far beyond, a lot of people will talk about school resource officers and just end it at that, right? But I think it boils down to discipline. Actually, at the most recent school board meeting, we were just discussing this about disciplinary practices and defining the parameters of what kinds of actions warrant what kinds of discipline. So examples that came up were is talking too loudly in class something that warrants a suspension or detention or whatever? And Desiree made a great point that for lots of different reasons, talking loudly is a really subjective term. So we have to be really clear to not over punish students for things that are pretty basic to just how students behave, and just making sure to also always support our students from a mental health perspective, right? That if they have a mental health crisis, that we're not punishing them for that. We're actually working to actively, like, from restorative and preventative angles to make sure that they are supported through their growing process. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much. And okay, I have you marked. Chancey, why don't you go ahead? Wait. You answered this one already. I have 5 check marks against you. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I figured Carcinel was coming from the Spanish word carcel, prison. So absolutely, there's a prison to pipeline statistic that's going on in our schools. But I would also go even a little further. There's overrepresentation besides expulsions and suspensions of students of color. There's also pushed into special ed. You know, our kids of color have been pushed into there. As a former member of the California Teaching Association Racial Equities Affairs Committee, we would tackle issues like this, pushing unconscious bias trainings to educators, getting them aware about that. And I would also go a step further with ethnic studies programs, you know, empowering our students, and also pushing it on the an elementary level, you know, learning when they're at that age, you know, is very appropriate for them. And I would conclude with, we need teachers of color and staff of color that look like our students.
Thank you. Yes. And JP, why don't you go ahead?
Sure, I think this is a multifaceted layers to this. One, as I mentioned before, SROs do have a role in this. I think we need to remove the SROs from the schools and replace that with 2 things. One is mental health resources. And the second one is understanding of different ethnic minorities. Different cultures have different understanding of mental health, and training, giving that professional development to our staff and the counselors at, you know, especially at the higher level in the high school, to identify those issues, and are they really issues of behavior, or are they mental health issues? So those are the 2 places we should place our resources. I know, like it was said before, I think having SROs on a campus make us look away from some of these mental health issues.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Greg, go ahead.
Well, thank you. You know, at Ohlone College, we have an excellent professional development every year for our faculty when they come back to the campus. And this year, in fact, this coming Friday, there's going to be a full day of trainings in this area. And Ohlone's been a leader in making sure that we do break the pipeline, as it's stated. And what we have to do is look for ways of being able to support our students through counseling and other services on our campus, so that you know, we break that cycle. So I'm all in on that. Thanks.
Wonderful. Okay, so before we go into our closing statements, I'm going to say 2 things. The first is that if any candidate wants to put their website, email, fundraising link into the chat for our group, I sincerely ask that you do. 2 hours is not enough time. We have so many more questions. I have club members hitting me up in the chat and texting me. There's so much more that we wanted to talk about, including things like the availability of counselors, you know, how we supply. I think Diane Jones and Vipana are having a fantastic chat in the chat right now about what a COLA increase actually means for taxpayers. There's so many, I think, different topics we could get into, but I want to make sure that all of my club members know how to reach you, access you, see your platform, and ask questions, because unfortunately we do not have the 7 hours that my club would like to grill you on every minute detail. With that being said, I will give all of you 90 seconds. I was only going to do a minute, but I feel like you're all so amazing. So I'm going to give everybody 90 minutes for a closing. I'm going to go reverse of how we open.
90 seconds, not 90 minutes.
90, you're right, 90 seconds. Thank you, Bowen, because my brain's all over the place.
Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. I don't want to go 90 minutes.
No, we're not filibustering. We're just, we're just giving some closing statements. Yeah, but filibustering's on my mind. The heat, y'all, is making me crazy. But yeah, the filibustering's on my mind too, because we got some things going on in this country. That's a different meeting for a different time. So, Bowen, you were not here. I will give you 90 seconds for your closing. Go ahead.
2 years ago, when I was first appointed to the Newark Unified School Board, we're in the middle of a budget crisis where the district was heading toward bankruptcy with a $2 million+ deficit. But in the past year, we made difficult but necessary decisions. We right-sized our district, we banned out-of-state travel conferences even before the lockdown, and we make sure that every single contract, every single consulting contract above $100,000 will be explicitly approved by the board. And in the past 2 years, we turned a $2 million+ deficit budget into 2 straight balanced budget in the next 2 years, even under the current economic condition. We have 3 years of straight COLAs for our labor partners without adding deficits to our budget. We approved up to $800,000 for a Chromebook and $600,000 for internet hotspot, so our underserved students can have the device and internet access during distance learning. My record of fiscal discipline and educational equity speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bowen, Jancy, go ahead.
Yeah, so in our Fremont, FA Fremont schools, it is like we have the biggest issue is like, again, guys, I'm saying this is the budget issue. We have so much of the budget crisis. And we are right now in the consistently from the 2017, it is a deficit. It's like we are overpassing our budget, and that is the biggest issue we are facing right now. And the person who can understand the budget, that is the needed in the school board, and at the same time, the person who is the educator, the person who can go to the community, understand that is the student problems, parents issues, and everything, to communicate with them and work with the teachers and the board, and give the students right things and right benefits and right priorities to the student. Our main thing is students, and for them, and safety, yeah, and inclusiveness and everything it is giving in our schools is most important thing. So I'm thinking that I am the person who can work all these things, because it's like I have an experience in this thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next we will go with Michael.
Yes, I'm running for New Haven School Board, Trustee Area 3. And I was away for a while, 18 years. And in my 18 years, when I was down south going to college and becoming a teacher out there, I was in South Central East LA, and then finally in Pacoima. And while I was there, and I was desperately needed out there, I was just an activist, and I was involved at my site. All of the privatization movements, I happened to be at the right time, place where it happened. We fought back. I'm an organizer. I even bought my first house in Pacoima, not because that was a desirable area, but because I wanted to be a community organizer. You know, I'm that crazy and got that involved. And I became the president of the neighborhood council, education chair. I organize parent workshops, empowering them on their rights, special education. And so I've done so many things down south, but the plan was always to come back to my hometown, Union City, where I got my ingredients. That's who makes me, the people around me, the educators who make me who I am. That's why I was able to do so much. It's the people who you're around. And so I want to give back. And so my parents have always instilled that to be a service to the community. And so I'm giving back to my community. I'm a teacher, and that's where my passion is at. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lucy, go ahead.
Cool. I feel like I'm uniquely positioned because of my experience and my identity as an alumnus, as someone who grew up in this community, and as a bilingual, queer, second generation, Chinese American immigrant, all these labels, to help sort of repair some of the breakdowns in communication that we've been seeing across the district recently, from like years of misunderstanding and a lot of misinformation campaigns, to be totally blunt. I work really closely with the parents on the curriculum task force, and I really believe that the active outreach that I've been trying to do with them can help to smooth our generational and cultural divides. And I just really want to be able to communicate more smoothly across all of these divisions right now. And more importantly, to make sure that our parents and staff members and educators and students, that they all feel supported in these processes and heard, that they're not just talking to a wall. I have also earned the Fremont Teacher Union FATA's endorsement. So I'm really excited to continue facilitating conversation between the district and its educators and staff. In the end, I feel like the central focus really should be about what's best for our students, for all of our students, from like a very equity-driven perspective, and always keeping that at the front of your mind. I'm also really proud to have Alex Lee's endorsement, and so along with him and FATA, I hope that I'll be able to earn your guys' endorsement as well. You can find me online at votelucyshen.com. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at votelucyshen, and on Facebook as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Melissa, go ahead.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm running for New Haven Unified School District Board, Governing Board Member and Trustee Area 2. I believe, as the Chair of the Human Relations Commission and a member of the Policing and Community Engagement Subcommittee, I've shown that I'm a proven leader in Union City, and I'm also a former educator as a music teacher. I am the candidate in this area that has been endorsed by the New Haven Teachers Association, and I want to work together as our community. We must look past our own local budget to Sacramento and Proposition 15 for better funding for our schools. I will be an advocate and an activist with our community on the board and in Sacramento. And we need a safe and equitable plan for distance learning. And we need to have restorative justice for our students and the school to prison pipeline. We need to have representation for our LGBTQ students and also advocate for our Black and Brown students. We are a grassroots campaign. We are funded only by individual contributions. So I can always use a donation or volunteers. Please contact me at melissa@melissa4newhaven.com if you can donate or volunteer. Otherwise, you can check out my website, melissa4newhaven.com. And I look forward to your support and your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Kelsey. I want to acknowledge again Tani Warren, a current trustee on the Ohlone board, Lance for his presence here, and Michael Gonzalez, who I do actually go and know him from the past. So good luck, Michael. So I want to thank all of you in the Fremont, Newark, Union City Progressives for taking time to conduct these interviews and your interest in Ohlone College. As we are in trying times with the impact of COVID-19 on our campus and community, with the weakening of the economic infrastructure that has yielded an unemployment rate of 10.2%, and our united outrage over the hateful racism and white supremacy that continues to terrorize communities of color, the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and too many others demand that we recognize institutional racism that exists in our systems and structures. It is our responsibility to work to abolish racism on a personal, structural, and institutional level, beginning in our schools and colleges. Yes, Black lives matter, but it doesn't stop there. We must continue to do all we can to close that divide. I sincerely ask for your support and endorsement to continue to serve as a trustee and use my experience on the board as a public school educator, a union leader, a progressive Democrat, to continue to shine light on these issues and to lead our community college to a place we can all point to be proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Terrence, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Fremont Union City Newark Democratic Club for this opportunity to talk. It's very much appreciated, and it's a very well-run meeting. So congratulations on that. So I'm running for the Newark Unified School District Governing Board. I'm running for the 2-year term, so I'm not running against Bowen. Just to for clarity's sake. I am running for the 2-year term on the school board. It'll be my first, it's my first try at elective office. I'm very much looking forward to being able to take my talents that I've developed over 30 years of professional experience and community involvement to help make Newark School District even better. There is no question Newark has a lot of assets, but we also have problems. We need to find a way to inspire our children and to support our teachers so that we can have even greater achievement in our district. And that's really my dedication. You can find out more about my campaign at terrencefornewark.org. There's no A in Terrence, by the way. That happens a lot, but so it's TERRENCE. So with that, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Terrence. Lance N., why don't you go next?
All right. Well, when I was elected in 2016 to now, I look back and while it hasn't been a straight line. We've had 2 superintendent searches. We've had a strike. We've had several wildfires over the last couple of years. And we're in the process of redefining what education is going to look like. And so with all of this change, with all of this tumult and racial tension and things that are going on in this country and the fact that we've been locked up for 5 months, I think that what our community needs, what our student needs is stability and proven leadership. And one thing that anybody who's held an elected office will know is it takes a long time to actually get really comfortable in the role. So I think that I've achieved the learning curve, and I just want to make sure that we don't get to a point where the district kind of is starting over again, because there's a bit of a learning curve there. I'm nothing but hopeful for the future of our district, and I'm a huge advocate for public education. I've earned a master's in governance from California School Board Association. I've also earned the endorsements of Delane Easton and Bob Wykowski, among others. And for that, I really would enjoy your support. And thank you very much for the opportunity to address you tonight. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Also, A+ Delane Easton name drop. She's a favorite here. JP, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. My name is JP Sahi. If I get elected to New Haven Unified Trustee Area 1, I'll work towards improving the equities across the schools, ensuring there's a positive relationship with NHTA, CSCA, and administration. Most importantly, I believe that the teacher should be earning a wage in order to live in our own community. As the CEO of Free Medical Clinics, I understand the challenges in the minority populations and balancing a budget in challenging times. Let's make changes that will benefit our children, our future. Let's take time to understand our community and its needs. Let's think outside the box on how we can maintain and sustain a budget without having to go through the issues like 2 years ago that affected teachers, parents, and our children. Let's rise together by investing in our future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Lance, go ahead. Lance Quan.
You know, I am running as again, the next hopeful generation for Ohlone College. There are 2 other open seats besides the incumbent, Greg, who I do appreciate at all times. And I really do hope for the support of Fun Progressives. Just as a quick drop, because y'all need to know this, if y'all are Democrats, if you didn't get your questionnaires for the joint TCDF, SACOID, SAC Pro Dems, and Muslim Dems and Friends stuff, you need to contact us. Either myself or Vanessa will make sure that you get connected real quickly, because that's happening next week, and it is all day Saturday starting at about 1 o'clock. So pay attention for that. So I felt like this is an appropriate place to announce that. So yeah, and if there's any other questions, feel free to email me at my email, which is votelancequan@gmail.com. And my website should be hopefully coming up shortly in the next couple of days at votelancequan.com.
All right, thank you so much. And Desiree, girl, close it out and bring us home.
Okay. While the conditions of learning have changed due to COVID-19 and distance learnings will be our focus, for additional challenge for us in an unprecedented time in school history. That is why we need experienced, knowledgeable, and strong leaders on the Fremont Education Board of Education, and I am that strong leader. I will make tough decisions to advocate for all students, including high performance students with special needs, English learners, and students who are facing additional educational challenges. I have family in school. I have a grandson enrolled, and soon we'll have another rising kindergartner. So I have a long way to go in school, in Fremont school history. I will work on transparency and accountability to ensure that that this year all of our students will have a quality education, fiscal sovereignty to ensure that we are in compliance with SB 98, and also Prop 15 must pass in order for us to be able to continue to pour into our schools and our communities. I have gotten the endorsement from the Teachers Association, as well as the Northern California Carpenters Association, Assemblymember Bill Quirk, among others who are supporting our campaign. I would be honored and privileged to receive your endorsement and also your vote for me as in Trustee Area 1. Thank you so much and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you guys so much.
Kelsey.
Yes, I hear Kelsey.
Yes, you hear, it's Tawny. It's
Hi,
Tawny on behalf of Amit. Okay. Do you mind, is it all right if I just give one last little, even 30
I will give you 90 seconds. Absolutely. You know you're part of us. Go for it.
You're the best. Okay, so I'm now going off script. I will just tell you that I have known Amit Patel for 9 years. I worked with Amit Patel for his last 2 years of ASOC at Ohlone College, and those movements that he discussed, rock the vote, voter count, voter registrations, educating our students on ballot measures and Prop 30. He was huge with his picket signs down on Mission Boulevard. This man is engaged. He is wonderful, and I'm telling you this. I fully support him, and I am sad that I'm not running for re-election, and I know many of you are reaching out to me on it. But if somebody were to replace me, I would love to see Amit Patel receive your endorsement as well as receive your votes. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tawny. And hopefully, I know Amit wanted to potentially join us next week if situations with his family and the potential evacuation calms down. To close out, first and foremost, as always, I want to thank our candidates for being here. And I also want to thank you for running for office. Everyone knows I'm managing Vinnie Bacon's campaign for Alameda County Board of Supervisors District 1, and running for office at any level, school board, city council, county, state. It is so hard. I think the number one thing I hear from first-time candidates is all the stuff they had no fucking idea about, like what they have to do to get an endorsement, what they have to do to, so it is hard, and we've tried very hard since our inception to help uplift new candidates and to guide them and to give them whatever we can. I'm going to share a link in the chat. Any candidate who would like to be considered for our endorsement needs to take our 12-point pledge. The link to that pledge is in the chat right now. And basically, what happened was a lot of candidates will tell you they get questionnaires out the wazoo. Long ass 30, 40 questionnaires. It takes them like 4 hours to fill out, and it's a mess. And I, as a campaign manager who has had to do those questionnaires, I think that they're absurd. We decided as a club, these are our values. As the Fun Progressives, these are the values we expect you to uphold. And you're either going to pledge to uphold them and we'll consider you for endorsement, or you won't. And if you don't, that's okay. We're not one of those, like, we're not super about, psycho on it and stuff, but basically, we just wanted to let you guys know these are our values. And if you also live and die by these values, take our pledge, become a progressive. It's not as scary as they say it is. It's really not, you guys. It's fun, I swear. But that's pretty much our only requirement. And we do kind of let people know that, you know, if you break our pledge and we find out, we you know, we publicly like get uptight about it. That's pretty much our only recourse of accountability because we're not really chartered or anything like that. But also to continue, we love our endorsees and we follow all of our endorsees through all of their offices. So I'm really, really excited to see the movement growing. The main thing progressives, or at least our club specifically, it's like what defines you as a progressive over a regular Democrat. And I always tell people it's the money, honey. We don't want no corporate money. We don't want no developer money. We don't want no charter school money. We don't want no big oil money. We just want money from human being voters that don't have ink after their name. So that's our biggest thing. We hope that everybody will take the pledge to be a clean money candidate and garner support from their communities. Yes, everyone's now messaging me, and POAs, of course, no police officer association money. I don't think we've ever endorsed a candidate that's taken money from the police, but all of those things, you know, as a public official, you are the negotiator on behalf of the constituents, and it is unfair to take money from people that you're going to be negotiating with on behalf of your constituents. That's our general philosophy. So I want to thank you all for being here. Please make sure that you have shared your information into the chat, and we will be sending out our endorsement ballots directly after our meeting next week. If you belong to this club and you did not pay your dues yet, I will hunt you down one by one this week. So go to paypal.com, fundprogressives@gmail.com, $5. If you need a hardship waiver, we're here for you. Email me. Otherwise, does anybody have any specific announcement or some type of important closing remark they want to say before I end the meeting?
I'll just say that they did decide I think Roger already announced it in the chat, but yeah, there's no evacuation order, but the evacuation warning does still take place.
Well, let's hope at 3 a.m. it doesn't turn into an order while everyone's sleeping, because that would be awful.
Kelsey, just to clarify, what's the opinion on Fund Progressives about unions?
So we're okay. Most union money, you know, it's collected by the workers themselves, and it's not really their fault that our legal system only allows labor unions to form as PACs to use their power politically. We've definitely had candidates who are like, no PACs, no matter what. But as far as labor money goes, because when you look at those PACs, it's all individual money, we're not really mad about it. We're more upset about those PACs, like, you know, Petroleum Creators Association PAC, where it's like Chevron and Shell and BP all put their money into it, and it's a corporate PAC basically. But labor PACs tend to be like 100% labor members contributing to their political voice. We leave that up to every candidate's position on whether or not they take that money, but it is not disqualifying in the same sense that taking money from like Shea Properties or the Rental Housing Association or Chevron or those types of companies would be. We've had very, very long discussions about this. Campaign finance is our thing. Let me tell you, this club has gone to town. So yeah, so we respect it either way when it comes to labor unions. I think what we're really looking at is those PACs that are really just funded by nefarious money, you know. That's about it. That covers it. Any other clarifications or comments before I end the meeting tonight? Okay. Okay, so for the people asking, yes, you can Venmo me your dues. I have you in the chat. I'll send you an invoice on Venmo. And also, Remy, I will come pick up the postcards. I swear to God, I'm going to do it. I'm busy. Okay, so with that being said, thank you all for being here and good night.
Great job. Great job, Kelsey.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Good job, Kelsey.
Bye.
Once again.
Appreciate you, Kelsey. Thank you so much.
Hey, Desiree, good job tonight.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
Desiree,
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Linda Delaney.
Bye.
Oh, Linda, I can see those hairs.
Bye, you all.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Great forum.
Thank
Take
you
care.
for organizing this one.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. Thanks, Chancey.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you.
Sergi. I'll see you next week, Sergi.
Oh, see you next Sunday. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying all the PAC money. So that was a big question on my mind. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely happy to do so. I know. It's the number one question that we get.
Thank you.
Chelsea, I had a
Okay,
question
see you.
Thanks.
about paying dues. So it's
Yeah.
funny. So I actually just wanted to pay you right now. I was writing you, but I got the invite forwarded by Sarbjeet that I want to become a righteous. So I'm Mandeep. I'm not Sarbjeet Kaur. So I want to pay my dues. I went to PayPal, and if I put in your email address, that doesn't seem to work. You said to search for Fund Progressives?
No, the email address is funprogressives@gmail.com. It's like, you know, the PayPal me, it's like paypal.me/fundprogressives.
Yeah, I see it. So
Yeah. So it's $5. That's it. We have, you know, we want to be so accessible to everybody. We also offer fee waivers, but honestly, it's so interesting because most people end up just like giving us 20 and telling us to keep the change. And
actually, I'd heard about the group. I'm Sarbjeet's campaign manager.
Oh yeah. Hi, welcome.
So I'm in Union City. So do you guys have a website? I've heard of the group before. I know you have.
Funprogressives.com. It's a little bit out of date. I need to do a little updating to it. But
Maybe we could update the logo a little too, you know, maybe get some rebranding. Okay, we're 4 years into this game. We're 4 years into this game. I'm just saying. It's great. We love it. But
She's
not busy. She's not busy.
I've tried for 2 years.
after this election cycle, how about, fair
rebranded.
enough. Fair enough. After this election cycle,
Hey,
after this
at
election.
volunteer organizations, when you raise problems, you volunteer.
I mean, do you volunteer to fix it?
You own it, right?
That's the way it works.
Harris, thank you for volunteering to update the logo and the website.
You know what? I can. I'll get some help from some people. Put me. Can you create an ad hoc committee?
I'm going to email you the 15 different logos I have designed over the last 3
So how about this? After this election cycle's over, have me chair this ad hoc committee on the rebrand, the redesign, coming into the 21st century, coming into the roaring 20s, and we'll figure it out.
Okay, it's done. You're in charge of the committee. I've decided.
But you need to appoint me.
I'm the chair, and I get to do whatever I want here.
Fair enough.
So I've
Fair
decided you're in charge of the committee. I'll send you some of my previous logo redesigns for you to work off of.
After the
Good to
election.
see you, Harris. Good to see you, Harris.
Good to see you too, Miss Chima. Good to see you too.
Yeah, it's so good.
Best of
All we
luck
can
on
see
your
right now, though, is
campaign.
the bridge.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And
All of you. You guys did great. Mallory, you did great too.
Kelsey did
thank you.
great. We know it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of
Melissa,
course.
too.
Kelsey, of course. That's for granted.
I mean, I try. I feel like I do everything mediocre, but I do so much of it that people think it's amazing. I'm like,
Mediocre?
You do nothing mediocre, my dear.
There is mediocre. It does not fit your bones at all, girl. So you. Yeah.
She doesn't have a mediocre bone in her body.
No. No.
I mean, I love you guys, but you're all lying right now.
You know what, Kelsey? Definitely not. This was one of the best run meetings. Actually, I expected this to go like an extra hour or two. You know, because that's how some other groups would do it. Like, oh, this happened, that happened, and extend out the time. And actually, that's kind of how I expect it to be in one of these other upcoming candidate forums. But you are on it, girl. You just write to it, target, and you know what to get done, and you get it done. And it's amazing. You're amazing.
Oh, Tani, it was a news to me that you are not running for your position. Why not?
I know. I'm so sorry, everybody. It's we have a.
Good to see you, Vinny. Have a good best of luck, Vinny Bacon, Supervisor 2020.
Yes, yes. Same here.
Yes, Vinny
Same here.
Bacon.
Good to see you, Vinny.
Vinny, you got my vote. So.
Feel free to also give him your money because both.
Yeah, that's what we can do.
Your affection with money.
I'll give you some, and you some, and you some. No.
No, I'm probably
we
going
need
to
to
do
have
like a joint
we
fund
need to have a
fundraiser and split it between all the candidates that we endorse. So
That'd be lovely.
yeah,
wow.
That's
we need to have a Vinny style leadership.
Yes, I mean we just need more leadership. Period.
Yeah. Right leadership. Right leadership.
Yes. I mean yes. I have so many comments about the way that our party is going after watching the DNC because I just feel like Democrats embody so much more than being anti-Trump, you know. We embody like caring about poor people and like marginalized people and like giving a fuck whether or not you live or die or make enough money to eat and feed your family. And
yeah, too bad we couldn't get Medicare for all on the platform.
I know, we just get reduced down to like, oh, we're not fascists, so we're obviously great. That is a very low bar. So I've been feeling a little bit, you know, unencouraged. But whenever we get into local politics and I meet all these amazing candidates, I'm like, fuck, dude, we could really just lift up, you know, come up and do really great things from the bottom up. But these are the races people don't care about, you know, like I bet you like 30,000 people are going to show up to vote on November 3rd and all they're going to mark is, you know, Joe Biden or Trump on their ballot and forget everything else.
You know, I mean, I got involved with Indivisible a fair bit in 2017 and 18. So, and I worked some at the state level. I was kind of amazed at how accessible state politics is going to Sacramento. So I agree that local and state stuff matters. And so I saw a lot of people get much more involved at that level because, you know, I heard this thing by, I think it was Ezra Klein, he said in national politics, of course, you have much less impact. So I hope, you know, what you're saying is true and that people do, certainly active people get more involved and care about local stuff because that's where you have the most voice, clearly. That's how the democracy started, you know, 2 centuries ago.
Yeah. As a political science major, when we study, you know, the political history of America, one of the biggest things, you know, the Articles of Confederation came before the Constitution, and that was all about localities and municipalities being able to govern themselves. So I super believe in that as a principle of American values to this very day. And it's where, you know, the votes that you start taking on day one will impact people very soon after, where the legislation that we do at the federal level takes years sometimes before we feel an impact here in our everyday lives. So yeah, it is very important. And that was basically the principles of what Fund Progressives was founded on 4 years ago, was that we have a lot of work to do locally. And I'm really proud, especially when I see, you know, Vinny going up to supervisor, and now in Fremont, we have a clean money majority on our council. And I see all these progressive people getting involved in their school boards and their park districts. It is the only thing that gives me hope in our politics in America, to be honest.
And you know, the Indivisible chapters popped up all over. So I think people have gotten more involved locally. And, you know, yes, we'll see.
We had a Indivisible phone bank with Vinny today, and there were 30 people that showed up to phone bank for Vinny. It was amazing. I was like, wow, this is the most incredible phone bank thing I've ever seen in my life. So the Indivisible, Swing Left, all these outside groups, and technically, you know, Fund Progressives is one of them because we're an Our Revolution group. We're not chartered with the Dem Party formally. And a lot of that is because, you know, a lot of good people get overlooked. And we need to do more to stop that. So I have to go to the liquor store before it closes. So I'm going to end this meeting.
Yeah. I'm gonna head out too, but good seeing everybody.
It was good to see you guys.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Good to see you all.
Asking my question, Kelsey.
Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
What happened?
Oh, yes, maybe. Oh, no, Kelsey, I was just saying thank you for asking and putting my question in the queue. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it in there. Yeah.
Oh no, I love when people get super policy wonky. It's my favorite thing about questions. So you're always more than free to come to Fun Progressives and get as policy wonky as you want. I encourage it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Have a
Bye.
good night. Bye.
Bye.